This video tutorial is not intended to replace the information in the Hamilton T1 service manual. Calibration, testing and troubleshooting must be performed according to the instructions in the service manual. This video is intended for certified service engineers only. Tools required are as follows: an ESD service kit, a pair of pliers, carbon fibre tape, slotted screwdrivers sizes 0, 2 and 3, Torx screwdrivers sizes T10, T15 and T20, a flat edge plastic tool, and hex head nut drivers sizes 11, 5.5 and 5 mm. Put on an appropriate electrostatic discharge wristband and personal protective equipment before you start the procedure. Position the ferrite core inside the holder bracket, then position the battery connector board with the ferrite core on the mounting plate. Install the 2 screws on the base of the mounting plate. Position the mounting plate with the 2 battery connector boards on the bottom cover. Install the 5 screws on the mounting plate. Install the inner screws on each of the battery connector boards. Finally, install the water shield on the battery connector board with the 2 outer screws. Insert the tubing for the expiratory valve bleed port through the designated hole in the bottom foam, then position the bottom foam on the mounting plate. Position the driver board on the bottom foam, then connect the 2 battery connectors to the driver board. Install the expiratory valve assembly in the bottom foam. Position the cable of the expiratory valve assembly inside the groove in the bottom foam, then connect the plug to the connector on the driver board. Attach a strip of the carbon fibre tape to the cable plug and connector to ensure a firm connection even under rough conditions. Connect the tubing for the expiratory valve bleed port. Install the middle foam. Install the check valve assembly with the flow sensor. Install the pressure sensor assembly. Connect the P-vent monitor tube and the P-vent control tube from the pressure sensor assembly to the respective designated ports on the check valve assembly. Then connect the expiratory proportional valve tube from the expiratory valve assembly to the designated port on the check valve assembly. Connect the PX valve tube from the expiratory vault assembly to the designated port on the pressure sensor assembly. Ensure the tubes are correctly connected to their individual ports and that you push the tubes inside the grooves in the middle foam to keep them in position. Install the blower module. Make sure that the blower module tube is correctly connected to the flow sensor. Recent experience has shown that it is better to connect the check valve assembly with flow sensor to the blower module before you install the sub-assembly. Installing these components together creates a better connection between the flow sensor port and the blower module tube. Connect the blower module cable to the driver board. Install the 4 fan holders on the connector plate, then install the fan. Make sure the correct side of the fan is face up and the fan cable is in the top left corner while you position the fan on the connector plate. Pull each of the 4 fan holders through the designated holes, then use a pair of pliers to trim off the excess part of the fan holder. Position the power supply on the connector plate. Install the 3 screws and the hex standoff nut on the power supply. Install the protection board and AC power input cable, then connect the plug of the AC power input cable to the connector on the protection board. Install the hex standoff nut on the protection board and the cable tie screw. Connect the 2 terminal cables from the AC power input cable to the 2 terminal lugs of the AC power plug on the connector plate. Put the ferrite in position, then install the clip on the ferrite. Tighten the 2 screws to keep the ferrite and the clip in position. Position the mixer assembly on the connector plate. Attach the blue low pressure oxygen tube and install the 2 screws. Attach a strip of the carbon fibre tape around the LPO tube and nebulizer valve cable. Install the HPO DIS or NIST connector, then install the 2 screws on the DIS or NIST connector and tighten them. Position the connector plate on the bottom cover. Connect the 2 ground terminal cables from the AC power input cable and the protection board to the terminal lugs on the mounting plate. Connect the green and blue plugs to the connectors on the driver board, then connect the fan and the O2 cables to their connector. Attach a strip of the carbon fibre tape around the cable plugs and connectors. Install the 2 screws on the connector plate and attach the AC plug seal to the power cord receptacle. Push the nebulizer tube into the quick release coupling. Make sure the tube is correctly installed. Check the tightness of the internal nebulizer tubing by attaching a hand pump to the nebulizer port. Apply a pressure of 60 millibars, then watch the pressure indicator of the hand pump for a potential pressure loss. Repeat this test again after you have performed the service software in the general tests having high pressure oxygen connected. Install the left side cover. Install the speaker O-ring on the right side cover. Position the speaker on the left side cover, then install the 3 screws with the washers. Install the right side, then connect the speaker plug to the connector on the driver board. Attach a strip of the carbon fibre tape around the cable plug and connector. Install the 2 screws at the front of the device. Position the ESM board shield housing on the control board, then install the 3 screws. Align the VU ESM board connectors with the pins on the control board. Be careful not to push the middle section of the VU ESM board during installation, as this can cause damage to the board. Carefully push the ESM board connectors onto the control board to fully engage the connectors with the pins. Push the microSD card into the card slot, then hold it in position while you install the hex standoff nut. Once you have tightened the nut, release the microSD card again. Install the remaining 3 hex standoff nuts on the ESM board. Position the shield housing on the ESM board, then install the 4 screws. Install the top foam. Locate the groove in the foam for the nebulizer tube, then push the nebulizer tube inside the groove. Make sure that the pressure sensor assembly board is positioned correctly below the top foam and that the PX valve tube from the expiratory valve is still connected to the port on the pressure sensor. Position the control board on the top foam, then install the earth cable screw on the hex standoff nut on the control board. Connect the remaining flexible flat cables and cable plugs on the control board. Ensure that the flexible flat cable is correctly and fully inserted into the connector before you lock it. Insert each flexible flat cable with the conductive traces surface down in the adjacent connector, then lock the connector. Attach a strip of the carbon fibre tape to each cable plug and connector to ensure a firm connection even under rough conditions. Be careful not to touch the inner surface of the display front protective cover and the LCD display if you have to replace these parts. Connect the alarm lamp board to the front panel board, then position the assembly on the inner part of the display front. Put the grounding lash into position, then connect the touchscreen flat cable. Take note of the different types of washers installed with the screws and follow the same sequence to install the 6 screws with the washers. Attach a strip of the carbon fibre tape to the touch connector, number 1, and jumper, number 2, to ensure a firm connection even under rough conditions. Put the P&T knob encoder in position, then connect its cable plug to the connector on the front panel board. Install the washer and nut and tighten the nut, then install the P&T knob. Be careful not to touch the surface of the LCD display. Install the LED backlight inside the LCD housing. Install the display holders as shown. Ensure the surface of the holder with the engraved word "up" faces down during the installation of the holder. Position the LCD display on the front, then slide the copper ground through the gap between the display holder and LCD housing. Install the 4 screws on the LCD holders, then install the display connector adapter. Connect the backlight cable plug to the connector on the front panel board. Caution: in case you replace the LCD display and/or the front panel board, please read the knowledge base entry KB3708 and KB3709, providing important information regarding installation and compatibility issues. Note: read the knowledge base entry KB3696 for instructions on the EMI upgrade implementations introduced on Hamilton T1 ventilators, serial numbers 10365 and higher. Open the battery cover, then from the front of the Hamilton T1, slide the front cover into position, but do not install it completely. Connect the flexible flat cables, then lock the connectors. Attach a strip of the carbon fibre tape over each cable and its connector. Put the display front into position to install the 3 screws. Slide the bracket for the option board cover into position, then slide the option board into position. Make sure the connector engages fully with the pins on the control board. Install the 2 screws on the option board, but do not tighten them yet. If the option board is not available, install the blanking cover to close the opening. Install the 2 screws on the rear side of the device, then put the rear cover into position. Open the LAN port cover. Install the 2 screws at the top of the rear, making sure the front and rear covers fit together closely while you tighten the 2 top screws. Install the 2 screws at the bottom of the rear, then tighten them. Tighten the 2 screws on the option board or option board blanking cover. Install the 2 batteries in the battery compartment, then install the battery cover on the right side battery. Note that the ventilator will start up as soon as you insert a battery. After removing the ESM board, the real time clock must be reconfigured. Touch the System button, Settings and then Date and Time to configure the date and time, then touch the Apply button to save the settings. Restart the ventilator. Restart the ventilator again in service software mode. Install the HEPA filter and the filter cover, then lock the captive screw. Your next step is to carry out preventive maintenance, which includes all the tests to be performed in test and application mode, as well as the electrical safety test. Finally, download and archive the instrument report and technical state file.